see this many people here today. And I'm guessing that's because we are all entering the unknown and are looking for some resources and guidance. So hopefully today we can talk together, work together, and I can show you some of the guidance that's already been put out for you all. For those of you who have not ever met me before, I'm Christine Kerner. I am the Director of Secondary Mathematics and Acting Director of Elementary Mathematics for the State Department. I've been in my position almost 2 years now, and so I'm excited that I finally get to see some of you, even though it's remotely, and that we get to have these meetings and really just learn from each other throughout this whole experience. If you don't already have my contact information, here it is. Right now, as you can see behind me, we are working remotely. And so my office line that is listed on the website does not actually come directly to me. So the easiest way to reach me is either through email, or you can use Twitter and tweet at my handle, Christine Goko. Or the OK Math Facebook group is where I have been making update posts and I've been responding to people's comments, or you can tag me there and I will respond to you as quickly as I possibly can. And so we're going to start today with a quick poll. And so hopefully you can all see my screen. And if you're on the phone, you should be able to scroll through until you see a blue screen that says, "How are you feeling?" And we have 9 pictures of Baby Yoda. And so I am going to give you a poll. And it just asks, "How are you feeling?" And you're going to click on the number that corresponds to the Baby Yoda you are feeling. Let me give you about 20 more seconds. Go with your gut. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. All right. So it looks like number 3 is the most popular option, followed closely by, let's see, number 5. So number 3 and number 5. And I see some people have found the annotate tools and are scribbling a little bit. Just know that that shows up on all of our screens. So you can annotate, but just know that it's all going to be there. But we have number 3. So yes, very valid feeling with number 3, a little shock and awe look, as well as number 5, which we have, I don't know, content, maybe relaxed. We've just had a little bit of an extended break, so maybe we took some time for self-care. That's all good. But you are not alone in your feelings, and we definitely are all in this together as we move forward. This is unprecedented territory, but we have some real opportunities here to bring excitement to mathematics and bring entertaining mathematics to our communities and to our kids. All right. So let me get out of my annotating here. Stop sharing. All right, so our goal today, like I said, we're connecting with others. You're going to get a chance to share some ideas that you've already come up with, and we're going to be brainstorming together new ideas. It's also your chance to connect with other secondary mathematics teachers around the state, because in a lot of cases, you're the only teacher in your building, or you're the only secondary teacher in your building. And so this is a chance to connect to others and really learn from each other. Before we continue with the math part of this, I just really want to remind everyone that now is the time for self-care. And teachers are notoriously bad at self-care. We do not take care of ourselves because we are constantly sacrificing ourselves for our students and for our work. And so especially now, more than ever, it's really, really important to take care of yourself. Whether that be get outside, take a walk, do some deep breathing, even just looking away from a screen for 20 seconds, laughing, watching the Marvel movies all in order, in sequence. Just stop overthinking things, and we need to relax and just enjoy. I know it's hard to say enjoy and be with this experience, but we have the opportunity here to take care of ourselves, and we need to. I also wanted to note that your district should be developing and sharing a plan for distance learning right now. They found out about this around the same time you did. And so if they have not reached out to you yet, I am sure it's coming in the upcoming days. They should be working on a plan. We have guidance, but that does not take over your district or school guidance. You have local control, and your districts are the ones that are in charge of your plan. That being said, your districts are going to be responsible for delivering guidance in relation to instructional minutes, contact time with students, the types and length and content of tasks that you're giving, any grading policies or feedback expectations, that's determined at a local level. And then if you are going to be using technology or not using technology, also is determined by your district. The State Department is going to be providing guidance to help support you no matter what your district chooses to do, but we are not issuing any requirements specific to any of these listed items. And so on that note, I've compiled a few different types of activities that you can use as you focus on instruction for your students starting April 6th. Again, we understand and recognize that all districts are going to be different in this. And some of your students will not have access to technology, some of them will. And so we tried to compile types of activities that enrich the material you've already taught this year. Also, they expand on the ideas that you've taught, and that could be digital or non-digital. And so the first slide I have for you is showing some ideas for no-tech options. And to communicate these ideas, you can call your students. The district can do an all-call with a list of weekly activities. I've seen teachers post chart paper on their windows with the day's task and have students drive by their house to look and see what the tasks are for the day. There are a lot of different ways that we can get creative and share ideas and assignments for the day. But all of these activities are projects in a way. They're mini projects, and they can be adapted to any type of curriculum. I used to teach a pre-AP algebra course, and so this is tailored to that pre-AP algebra course. But I feel like you can easily adapt these activities to other subject areas within the math world. And so, for example, create a picture book explaining to younger kids how to solve a systems of equation problem. You can create a picture book about just about any topic in the math world. And this sometimes can be fun, especially if students have younger brothers or sisters. It can be something that they create. They can be more artistic with it if they so choose. And it doesn't really require any tech besides remembering what are systems of equations and how do I demonstrate that learning. We also have some ideas for you that are low tech, meaning the problem resources are online, they're on any given website, but you could take these, you could screenshot them and paste them, you could explain them verbally. It doesn't require the technology to actually work and reason through the problem. And so the example I have on this screen is Open Middle. So it's just openmiddle.com. They have pre-K through calculus problems ready to go for you. And Open Middle has been around for quite some time. It's all free, always free. And that's something that I tried to pull resources that are always free versus just free for the pandemic, so that you can use them not just now, but in your classrooms in the future. This one, you have to use the digits 1 through 9, at most one time each, and then fill in the boxes so that the coordinates make a parallelogram. So they are using 4 coordinate points using the numbers 1 through 9 only once to then form a parallelogram. Makes students think, generally keeps them interested because you can turn it into a competition. You can ask them to explain their answers. You can ask them to find another way if there's more than one way, things like that to get students engaged in the material. And this is only one problem, but it can take a substantial amount of time as students are grappling with it. Another option, or another set of options for low tech, would be a would you rather problem or a which one doesn't belong problem. Both of these are available online. There are resource banks for both online, and I'll link them in my digital resources for you. But what you are doing with a would you rather is you're giving 2 different options, and students need to choose one of them, and they can justify based on different reasonings. And so if you were at my regional meeting, we did this in the form of speed dating. But you can also just present it and ask students to comment, debate, decide, reason through, use math and non-math reasoning. But it gets them, again, thinking about the concept, really justifying the topic, and going deeper into topics that you've already maybe introduced to them. For which one doesn't belong, they are arguing for one of the 4 choices to not belong with the others, that they don't fit in with the set. And so the example I've given you are 4 different 3-dimensional shapes. And really, any one of the 4 shapes could be argued as the correct answer, but the focus is more on the justification and reasoning behind their choice versus what is the right answer, because technically all 4 are the right answers. This drives kids crazy because they're always looking for the right answer, but at the same time, it pushes their thinking and expands their thinking a little bit, so that they can actually start developing as mathematicians and problem solvers. And then finally, I have one example of a high-tech. And so with high-tech activities, you do need the technology in order to make it work. Again, we understand that not all students will have access to technology, and so that's why we also compiled the activities and resources that were no tech or low tech, so that students without that technology could still access learning activities that were beneficial. But for those of you who do have access to technology for your students and for yourselves, because that's also key, we have one example, and that's teacher.desmos.com. And when you go to teacher.desmos.com, you are able to create activities or just borrow activities that are created already by Desmos or by members of the Desmos community. And to assign those activities, you just copy a URL and send it to your students. And that way they can access it, and you can see exactly what each of your students does. And they have a new feature now where you can actually provide feedback right in the Desmos dashboard. And so you can comment on it, you can ask students to explain further, you can reassign them particular slides, you can do multiple activities at once to differentiate, things like that. And that has activities for grades 6 through 12, and even some for elementary. There's also geometry Desmos board now. So if you teach geometry, there are some cool activities and things related to geometry that you can also use and include in your Desmos assignments. And so along with those suggested activities, we have some particular guidance for you. And so first off, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a moment. And hi everyone, now I can finally see your faces for those of you who are sharing. I'm going to paste the link to this presentation in the chat. And so if you go down to the bottom of your screen, there should be a button that says chat. And by the way, if you are asking questions in the chat, I wasn't able to monitor that while I was sharing my screen, but rest assured, I will be going back into the chat, looking through all of your questions, and if you have your name with it, I can respond through email, or if you want to just add your email and your question, I will get back to you if I don't get to it within this webinar time. All right, so I pasted the link to the presentation, so now you can access it. And with that, the reason I wanted to share those slides is because we have a secondary math guidance document, and I'm going to reshare my screen so that you can see that. Here we go. So hopefully you can see that document. This is a list of general guidance to help support you when you're thinking about what types of activities you want to implement and how often you want to give those assignments, what types of assignments you want to give, what your school is going to help you with, and what you might need to do on your own. And then we also have my favorite part, actual resources. And so I have linked in some different presentations about teaching remotely in times of need. NCTM is offering several webinars, and they're recording those webinars about teaching remotely. And then we also have, if you are using Google Classrooms or using Microsoft Suite, we have specific guidance related to those. We also have a list of platforms that you can use, whether you are trying to do phone calls or online chats, or using a learning management system or LMS, whether you are going to connect via Zoom. You've seen that you can connect through the phone or online with Zoom, so that's an option. And right now they're expanding the time and free accounts for Zoom for educators. So this is an option for you. And then we also have some ways that you can encourage discussion with your students, whether it's over the phone or on an LMS platform. In addition, we have some sample activities. And those sample activities, this is just one for middle school and one for high school. But if you click on the link where it says view a secondary learning menu here, you'll get additional activities that are all no tech. If you have additional activities you would like to share, whether they be no tech or tech-based options, there's a link to a survey, and I'll actually give you a chance to add to that today too, to add your own activities so that we can build that database of activities without, at least the intention is without being too overwhelming. I'm sure you have seen the thousands of free resources that are coming in, coming to your email, showing up on Facebook, everywhere, and it can be very overwhelming. And so what we're trying to do here is streamline that so that we give you the best free available resources out there. And so if you want to explore on your own, please do. But if you are just looking for what can I do right now, right at this moment, that's where we're trying to guide with the resources that we've collected. We also have links to all of the Facebook communities that are available specific to Oklahoma as well as nationally. And so you can see some of these here. And then I was going to make this announcement, but if you've been reading the document, you can also see every Tuesday from 2 to 3, I will be having office hours where you can ask me questions, bounce ideas off of me, whatever you need me for during that time. We will also be having some subject area specific, so math specific PD for those of you looking to learn more about Desmos or learn more about GoBoard or some of those tools and features, and just teaching math remotely. And so we'll be having some of those during that Tuesday from 2 to 3 time slot. In addition, we have a digital resources list. Again, this is both low-tech and high-tech resources. So it's resources that would not necessarily need a computer at home to be completed, and resources that do rely on the technology. Because again, we understand that students are in very different places all across our state. And so we're trying to meet the needs of all of them as best as we can. All right, so that is our guidance document, and you have access to that in the slides. That'll stay there. Along with the guidance document, we have the OSDE frequently asked questions. When you click on that, it'll take you to our COVID-19 website, and then that will show you the latest frequently asked questions links. So they're updating them pretty much every day. I didn't want to include the March 26th one because I'm sure March 27th is coming out soon. But by going to that link, you'll see where the latest FAQs are. And then I also wanted to include a recording to the State Board of Education meeting from March 25th. That seems like so long ago, but it was only 2 days ago. But that's when they made the decision that has brought you all here today. And so if you want to view that and see the details of that, you're more than welcome. All right, so now we have a little bit of time for the most important part of this webinar. And that's going to be starting to brainstorm and discuss where you all are at right now and where you want to go next and what you need. And so I am going to copy and paste some things into the chat real quick. Okay, here we go. my original chat monitor couldn't get into the chat or couldn't get into the Zoom because we were full. So now you get me stuck with me doing it. So, all right, here's what I have. In a moment, you are going to be sent into smaller rooms where you'll only have about 5 or 6 people in your chat room. And so you'll be assigned automatically. It'll have a pop-up that says, please, invitation to join breakout room 2 or something like that. You're going to click accept and you'll be launched into a new room with a few other people. And in that space, you're going to be allowed to unmute yourselves and you'll introduce yourselves to each other. You're going to say if your district has a plan that you know of, what your district's plan is. I did send out a survey through the Facebook group, and about 80% of you said you did not know your district's plan. So if you do not know your district's plan, that's okay. They're still establishing them. You're not alone there. But then you can discuss what are your plans for supporting instruction? What types of tasks do you plan to implement? And if any of those sample tasks that I share resonated, maybe how you could adapt those tasks to your content area. And then also, I'm going to ask that one person within your breakout group completes the survey link that I've linked in the chat as well. So one person is your designated representative. They're going to just fill out the survey link with a sample activity that you guys brainstormed or came up with or are planning on using. And then we're going to come back together in about 15 minutes. So you're going to have 15 minutes to really discuss with one another and get some ideas and move forward. And then we'll come back together, summarize what we talked about, and then we'll go from there. So real quick, any questions? And if you have a question about the breakout room specifically, click the hand raise button found by clicking on participants at the bottom. And then you'll see a series of buttons. And if the hand raise button isn't available, maybe just click the green check yes. Okay, so, all right, so we have, all right, D.E. Ferguson, you are unmuted. Go ahead and ask your question about the chat room.
All right. Getting into the breakout groups, how do we do that?
I am going to assign you in just a moment. And so I will be putting you into groups. It'll have a pop-up with a button that says you are invited to join this group. And you're going to click on that and you'll be automatically moved into it.
Okay.
Kira, was that your question as well? Or Kiara? Sorry, now you're unmuted, or should be. Kiara?
That was, yeah, kind of the same question.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Oh, you're good. All right. I am going to assign the breakouts at this point. Here we go. So I've opened all rooms. You should have an invite or a button to push to join the room. So go ahead and do that. Hi, Lauren. If you are still in this room, that means that you have not joined your breakout room yet. So just make sure that you're joining that breakout room by clicking on the button. Someone's asked me for help, so I'm gonna hop into a different breakout room, but I'll be back.
I know mine hasn't worked for middle school.
Hi everyone, someone asked me for help. Sorry to interrupt you. This is Christine.
You're fine.
Are we good? Okay, I'm gonna take your silence as you're good. So if you need me, let me know. Otherwise, continue chatting.
I know for some of my classes, I'll probably do some Desmos activities. I don't know yet if it's supposed to cover new material or if it's all supposed to be review. We haven't gotten any direction for that yet.
I am in Mustang and we have not gotten direction yet, but I do think we are not supposed to share new content. Is that your understanding?
I've used this year and in the past. It's great. It doesn't have like what standard aligns with, like if you had a textbook would for Oklahoma standards. So you'll just
If your audio isn't working, you can click on the chat box too and add your thoughts in the chat, and that'll be a group chat for you all.
Having that later today at 4. But I know for like I'm doing a lot of review.
All right, we haven't done that, and we haven't done factoring, but
Oh, I did.
well, that's good. But this is my group. I've never had a group that's as advanced as this group is, so I feel like they can teach themselves if I just give them the info.
Me too. I
No
love
worries.
this year. I'm so sad because these are the best kids I've ever had. Awful.
It's frustrating.
And where are you at?
Calvin. I'm right between Ada and McAllister. Most people have never even heard of me. So.
You're down the road from us. We played baseball there.
Aha. Where did you say you're from?
I'm at Quentin now, but I taught at Kenna.
Okay. Yeah. I know Kristen just to go the open middle as warm up sometimes from one class to another so that I know what I'm teaching. I use which one doesn't belong. It frustrates the crap out of my students because there's not one right answer. And I also have used the would you rather and put the pairs and had for you guys careful.
to send you this thing. And so I don't know that you can use it as soon as you get it unless they've changed it. I've had it for a while. So if it doesn't work the first time, just wait to hear from them.
Okay, cool.
But since we've been doing this, I have I've used Desmos, GeoGebra, GoFormatives, Pear Deck. Pear Deck's an add-on to Google Slides. We use all kinds of stuff.
Subject picked what they felt was their most important skills for students to try and learn on their own, which we know isn't the best case scenario. It's the best we have now. And we will then work those skills into next year's calendar. So what they're missing in Algebra 1 this last 9 weeks, Algebra 2 will have to address next year. Because we can't count on kids learning it at all. We can count on a majority of them looking at it, but not learning. So we're not overwhelming them with work. We're trying to do projects with whenever possible. But that's really where we're at. We're not trying to move ahead. We're trying to give them work to continue their learning plan at home.
In prior, we are emphasizing the sustainability of learning that the students have already had this year. So we will be focusing on reviewing, spiraling and reviewing what we've done this current year, and then providing enrichment to introduce some things and as well as review those activities. One thing that we are really trying to focus on is trying to maintain relationships with students. We are asking our teachers to continually check in with students, at least we've discussed either once, twice a week. With secondary, we're trying to work that out. When you have 150 students, it's hard to make 150 telephone calls or 150 emails every week to do that. So that's and fluttering, but we're trying to focus on maintaining relationships. We know that relationships are key to learning in general, so we're doing that as well. We do not have our lesson plans made yet, and we will be making those in 2-week
interesting to figure out, like an office hours type situation, because I know there's at least a handful of kids I have that don't have internet, just from previous stuff that I tried to use, because I started trying to use Google Classroom, being Google One level certified at the beginning of the year, and there's kids that just couldn't get onto it because they don't have the capabilities.
Right. A friend of mine out in Oilton, which is kind of like by Cushing, they're having to make packets for all their kids.
Right.
Yeah, I know that's something me and one of the other teachers for our team were talking about last night. But our question is, again, packets are great if there's a capability to pick them up.
Right.
But if you have families in single parent households where they still have to go to work, so they're at work all day, how do we get that stuff picked up and get to the kids?
Right.
Unfortunately, we have a whole lot of issues dealing with this going into
layers, computers, it's going to set to go until they had the investigation about why it crashed. Some of the guys picked up some of the stuff that was going on.
All right, we should be just about all back at this point. Getting there anyway. Jessica, I love the breakout rooms with Zoom because you get a chance to talk to each other. And when there's 300 of us in one thing, it's kind of hard to unmute and talk and have a discussion. But when we can have smaller groups, I love it. All right. We're all just about back. So I love seeing that people are liking the breakout rooms. I know it's sometimes weird at first when you are first trying it. And so it's something that, just like everything else, it takes practice, takes some time to get used to. But it's a nice opportunity to get not only smaller groups talking, but to get some of those students that maybe otherwise wouldn't feel comfortable talking to a whole class or a whole group to talk a little bit in smaller groups. And I see that we need to know how to do that, and I want to learn that. Guess what? We're going to be having some Zoom PD options too. And so we'll walk you through how to do the different things like breakout rooms, like renaming yourself, like the polls, things like that. But there's a lot of cool stuff and features that we can use on this tool. All right, so, and I'll have to check on the FERPA rules. I believe that for educational purposes, it's allowed as long as you don't record, but I would have to double check that for sure. Don't quote me on that. All right, so in the chat, if you could, some of you are already doing this, but if you could add some of your key takeaways or ideas that you discussed in the chat that you feel would be beneficial for the entire group to hear more about or see, something that you feel like will be useful, something that you think will help you in making these planning decisions. And while you're typing in the chat, I just wanted to share a few things that I heard. One, there's still a major concern over the lack of internet access and tech for students. Totally understand that. And I know that as secondary math teachers, we often have up to 165 students. We don't want to make phone calls to each and every one. One thing that I used to use when I was coaching was the Remind app. And that was something that I could use to text students, but it wasn't from my actual phone number. It was like a dummy number, but they knew that was me. And that way I could attach images, I could attach maps for my cross-country routes for the meets that I was doing, things like that. And so that was one way that I didn't need technology access for my students, but most of them had a cell phone or their parents had a cell phone, so I could send out info that way. I also heard a lot about grading. Again, that's going to be a local decision for grades. We are encouraging that you focus more on enrichment of content rather than necessarily introducing new standards. However, your district and school have the decisions to make regarding whether introducing new content or just reviewing original content. So please pay attention to your district and school initiatives on that note. But keep in mind, we're in new territories. And so when you're going to grade something, keep in mind student situations, where they're at, where you're at, all the other things going on in the world in addition to your math class, things along those lines. So just keep that in mind. In regards to packets, please make sure to pay attention to the CDC guidance in regards to sending out hard copy materials. That guidance changes pretty regularly, so just make sure to check out that CDC guidance as well as the OSDE frequently asked questions, and they provide some guidance in relation to packets. And then also, I just heard so many people say how sad they were to not get to see their students, and I'm in total agreement with you. That's always the hardest part. Not seeing your students, and especially if, you know, it's your first year, if it's your last year, or if it's, you know, in between, it's never easy to say goodbye to students, and having to say that more abruptly is pretty hard. And so I loved that in the discussion I was in, we were talking about maintaining those relationships with students, checking in on them, finding out how they're doing, working on building up those relationships and maintaining those relationships in addition to the math, and even at the forefront before the math. I love those ideas and hearing that. I'm seeing a ton of responses in the chat about different resources. Remind to group me. Group me is another great option for texting and sharing phone stuff and low-tech ideas, additional problem resources. Let's see. Using the family guides. I know those are K-6, but taking some of the activities from the family guide and adapting them for secondary. If you haven't seen the math family guides, there are a lot of application activities that don't require technology, and those are also translated into Spanish for our students whose families do not speak English. I know there are a million other languages that our students speak, and so that can present a challenge. Google Translate has gotten a lot better, as well as the translate function in Microsoft Word has gotten a lot better about doing accurate translations versus the word for word translations that don't always translate correctly. So those were some of the things I was hearing about. And I am happy to provide more brainstorming time for you all. We can use the office hours for that as well. So if that's something you're interested in, because I'm seeing a lot of people saying it was nice to just talk with other educators, we can definitely do more of that structured networking time, having that time to really build resources and support each other during this time. We're used to being in a classroom full of students and seeing our colleagues every day. And so it's real weird to be completely isolated. We've been doing this since last Monday. And so it's a very different feeling. But we have the opportunity to come together, and maybe we'll even get to see each other more often now than we normally get to. So that's, you know, the silver lining in all of this as we work toward achieving a goal. I will be able to download the chat, and so I will send out the chat attached with the recording and the link to the presentation slides. So I will get all of those so that we can have all the resources that you were sharing compiled, and so that we can kind of streamline all this information. I might try to just compile all the chat together so that we can group resources together and like relate them by topic instead of just giving you the basic transcript, if you think that would be helpful. That way you don't have to sift through, you know, all thousands of responses, but I can do that for you. Okay, good. Group them. Yes, I will do that. But before we leave, hopefully you got 1 or 2 ideas. I know there's still some unknown out there, and there's going to remain unknown. This is uncharted waters. But I hope that you were able to get at least 1 or 2 ideas to start and to take off with. And so on that note, I am going to poll you one more time. And so we had a little bit of a smattering of our Baby Yoda feelings before. So I'm going to relaunch the poll. Hang on, before I do that, I'm going to take a screenshot of the first poll results so that you have them. And then I'm going to relaunch the poll. All right, so you should have the poll question again. How are you feeling? I'll give you a couple seconds. All right, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ending poll. All right, so I'll share these results. We have a lot more 2s, which I think is a little bit, you know, the positive Yoda, like we're reaching for the stars, reaching for the most amazing stuff possible. So that is the most popular one. We still have, you know, things all across the board, and we're going to have those emotions all day, every day, for sure. But we can keep working together. If we can maintain this network and still stay strong together, we can do anything. And so I'm just so happy that we got a chance to hang out today and just share some ideas and network together. And then I got asked just now, let's see, where will this information and resources be located? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to compile all of this. I'm going to mail it out through the math newsletter. So if you don't get that listserv, go to sde.ok.gov to sign up for the math newsletter. Then after I send it through the newsletter, I'll post it on OK Math Facebook chat. Also, I will post it on the sde.ok.gov/mathematics webpage. So it'll be located there. I believe they are launching a whole webpage devoted to all of this work, and they will also put our chats there. But I at least want to put it on our math page and make sure that we have it focused. So to go to the listserv, go to sde.ok.gov, the main Oklahoma OSDE webpage. Oops, Danae, sorry I sent you that privately. Let me send to everyone, sde.ok.gov. When you access that main page, you'll scroll down just a little bit and you'll see a rectangular box that says subscribe to our newsletters. You'll type in your email, and then there's an actual space for mathematics. You'll check that box, and then you'll be on the list. And so you'll receive all future mailings. And then we'll keep you updated from there. That is all I have today. So, but it's not all I'll have for you ever, I promise. We'll continue to network, connect, and share our resources. And please, again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to email, to tag me on Twitter, to post in the OK Math Facebook group. I'm here to support you in any way that I can. And I know that we're such an amazing network. And so I am just looking forward to collaborating with you all and really making this work and moving on to do good things. So thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And hopefully I will see you next week at our office hours. Thanks.